The Cancer new moon on June 25th, 2025 is uninterested in the what that you want. This is not a lunation to plant seeds, to set intentions, to call in manifestations around the what that you desire. It is about calling in the how you want to feel. Because underneath any sort of desire is this heartfelt yearning for feeling a particular way. Our mind has just arbitrarily decided that this thing, this milestone, this accolade, this position is the avenue in order to experience that emotion. So it's not just about wanting the position, it's wanting to feel that sensation of security and abundance. It's not just about this particular person, it's around wanting to feel loved, valued, seen. It's not about this particular follower count, but wanting to feel this sensation of impact and feeling validated for your creative contribution. Whatever it is, when you go beneath the surface, because we're all going beneath the surface, it's Cancer season, you'll see that underneath that is a particular sensation that we are wanting to experience. And the Cancer new moon this Wednesday asks you to be definitive about that how that you want to feel, while remaining open-ended to how the universe will deliver that to you, to allow that emotion to be the compass that guides you forward. And you may arrive to some destinations that you did not expect. But when you allow that emotion to guide you, you can be sure that it will be an energetic and emotional match to what you're really after. Because sometimes we get what it is that we were after and we're like, I'm not feeling seen here. I'm not feeling valued at all, or I'm not feeling fulfilled by this, or this job still does not make me feel very secure. Like sometimes we get there and we find, ooh, this did not have the emotion that I thought that it would at all. And this Cancer new moon is around getting to the heart of it, getting to the soul of it. What is it that you really want to experience? How do you want to feel? And can you surrender control to allow the universe to match you to circumstances, places, and positions that will bring you experiences that are a match to that emotion that you're after? Because when we are very dead set around, it's got to be this, you are externalizing your power. You are feeling like that emotion is only available if this person falls in love with me, if this position hires me, if I get this amount of followers, whatever it is. You are allowing that emotion to almost be dangled in front of you like a carrot, perpetually out of reach. And this is a very juicy, fertile new moon. This lunation aligns with Jupiter. It is expansive. And it asks you to purposefully expand that emotion that you're wanting to get to in the slivers of how it shows up now. So if you're calling in more joy, grab hold of those micro moments of joy within your world, expand them, relish in them, bask in them, and then say to the universe, more of this, please. More, please. And it's important to remain flexible around how the universe will deliver that to you. There are some twists and turns in store for this week and this new moon. The new moon squares off with Neptune. So there's some mysteries in the journey that only the divine knows at this particular moment in time. And it's knowing that some of these mysteries show up around what we are not getting at this particular moment in time. There's an ask for patience. There's an ask for trust with this lunation, as frustrating as that may be. This new moon squares off with Saturn, and Saturn can have some barriers. It can have some roadblock. And there's a genuine ask with this week's astrology to see where it is that you can redefine those rejections and see them as redirections, where it is that you can redefine where you're experiencing a lot of resistance and see it as the universe's assistance. And we may not know the why right now. We may not know why this was not particularly a fit, but there is an ask with this lunation to trust and continue to embody what it is that we're calling in now. Embody the emotion of it, with it being Cancer season, and embody the identity of it. We have some solar activity this week. We have the sun squaring Neptune and the sun aligning with Jupiter. And while there are potential downsides that I will of course equip you for with this energy, this is a vibe of fake it till you make it, or at least fake it till you feel it. It's just around seeing yourself in the light of that particular vision and that particular manifestation. Neptune bends and blurs reality, and Jupiter can be this expansive energy. And so with the sun aligning with Jupiter, you can expand your self-concept or how it is that you see yourself. The journey of seeing yourself within that light may be challenging this week. While there is this celestial nudge to see yourself in new ways and to expand your creativity, your leadership, all of these solar themes, the obstacle of that is your own mentality. We have Mercury in Cancer squaring Chiron in Aries, which is this inner narrative of your own flaws, of your own deficiencies, of your own inadequacies and insecurities that's sort of taunting your desires around, really? You really think you could make a difference? You really think that you could be an actor? You really think you could do this? Like, your inner dialogue could be your biggest hater this week. We've got Mercury in Cancer squaring Chiron in Aries. And Cancer energy is very sacred and very soulful. And so there could be a temptation of not wanting to put your dream out there into the world or even try to realize it, because that can feel vulnerable. That can feel scary. And of course, I'm a big believer in not rushing the process, that things take their own timing, not talking about things before they're out to the world. I definitely think there is a role of keeping things sacred and soulful and perhaps hidden and private. But there comes to be a time when it's time to bloom. There comes to be a time where, yes, the seed is safe in the soil, but there's so much potential within that seed. And to break the soil, now the seed is vulnerable to the elements, right? To people who can walk and stomp the flower, to the sun that could burn it out. It's vulnerable to the elements, but it's what it was made for. It's what you were made for. Yes, it would be safer to just allow your dreams and your visions to remain hidden within the soil of your soul, but that's not what you were born to do. You were born to bloom. Mercury squaring Chiron is going to tell you that's the safer role. To be seen, to be heard is dangerous. It could inflict pain with Mercury squaring Chiron. And there is a nudge this week around sharing and shining your light and allowing your story to be told, because Mercury, the planet of language and communication, shifts from Cancer to Leo. And when it shifts into Leo, it trines Saturn, it trines Neptune, and it opposes Pluto. Not only does putting ourselves out there in any sort of way make us vulnerable to feeling pain with the square to Chiron, it also can make us subject to jealousy. It also can make us subject to criticism. Mercury in Leo really asks you to not dim your light, to not keep yourself small. Right? The flower was meant to break the soil. The flower was meant to grow tall. The sun is meant to shine. There's an ask to do just that. And life is a risk. We can't avoid feeling rejected, feeling judged, experiencing pain. It's just asking, what do you want to feel? What do you want to feel? Oftentimes, the emotions that we find in those periods of safety are not the most exhilarating. It doesn't make us feel the most alive. And the Cancer new moon wants you to plant seeds around, where do you feel the most alive? Where do you feel the most fulfilled? Where do you feel the most expansive? And oftentimes, it's when we are in this journey of trying, but keeping going, keeping growing. And so we have so much more to get into when it comes to this astrology. This is the last week that we have of new Mercury territory before it enters its pre-retrograde shadow next Monday, the 30th. Now, it's not that the world stops when Mercury enters its pre-retrograde shadow, but this is an important week to grab hold of all your mercurial matters, which of course we will get into. So as we always do, we will get into everything that you need to know about the astrology from June 23rd until June 29th, 2025. But before we get into that, it's getting hot outside in many places of the globe, so we're going to need something to drink. So let me know below what you are sipping on in this week's Cosmic Cafe. I'm drinking this Olipop cherry cola that is absolutely divine. It has all sorts of wild ingredients in here. It has cactus, marshmallow root, calendula flower, real cherry juice, Himalayan pink salt. I don't even know. Green tea. I don't even know. I don't taste any of that. Personally, maybe I don't have a very refined palate, but it's delightful. It's cooling me down. Make sure that you are hydrating lots. If you are located in a portion of the globe where it is heating up, make sure that you are wearing your SPF. A certain cosmic podcast host, I don't know who, was not very diligent on her SPF wearing. I may have hit it, actually. I don't know if you can tell. I am incredibly burnt. I am incredibly burnt, and that is not good. Make sure to wear your SPF. Take care of your skin. I just have this issue. It's not that I didn't wear sunscreen. I did. I applied. I was very diligent. It's simply that I am a Pisces. I am part mermaid. I cannot control myself once I get to the beach. I forget I'm a human, truly. I go full mermaid mode. The moment I am at the beach, I forget to eat, I forget to drink water, I forget to put on sunscreen. I am just purely frolicking. I am pure whimsy and mischief and delight. And I forget that I have a human body that I have to take care of. And so after many hours of frolicking and my friend truly having to pull me from the beach, I then realized the error of my ways. I am a little bit better than I was yesterday when I filmed. This is actually take two of our horoscope from June 23rd to June 29th, 2025. As some of you know, I have recently updated my set and I've upgraded a lot of my equipment, which I am getting the hang of. Thank you all so much for being patient with me. I'm so sorry that last week's audio was quiet on a lot of your end. Hopefully this week it is rectified. But in yesterday's edition, I had a different beverage in the Cosmic Cafe, different outfit. I was much pinker. But something went wrong with the audio. I hit recover, but it didn't recover. And then I almost didn't recover. I was like, really? And I never plan these. So I never know what the vibe check of the week is going to be before I sit down. I don't know what exactly I'm going to talk about. Of course, I know the astrology, but in terms of what flows through and comes through, that's the magic of Magic Monday. But that style of filming is not conducive for recreating. And it's been kind of fun this far into the video because that intro was so different than what I talked about yesterday. And what it took for me to get into the Cosmic Corner, because I was pretty upset that the audio file was gone. I did not plan on filming today. There was other things that I needed to get to. And what got me here was just this trust around, okay, universe, there must be a better way for me to deliver this message. And that's going to be important because this new moon squares Saturn, which is that energy around this sucks. I don't have time to re-record. I liked the take that I had yesterday. I liked my outfit yesterday. Like the energy of Saturn, dang, life sucks sometimes. It's annoying sometimes. It's annoying to trust the universe. It's annoying to be like, okay, universe, I had like a million other things I had to do today, but I guess I will re-record. Magic Monday, I guess so. Whatever. So I'm trusting in the universe, even though it's annoying. Maybe my horrible sunburn it was worse yesterday would have scared people. They would have been frightened for my health. Maybe there was something that I said yesterday that could have been said in a more, all I know is my heart, my intention, how I want to feel when I'm recording, how I want you to feel when you are listening, watching, or walking away from my content. And I need to surrender how the universe is orchestrating things and aligning things. And sometimes it shows up in those redirections, those rejections, those hard circumstances, those no's, those missing audio files. So I'm trusting in the process. Whenever we have Neptune energy, there's a theme alive around acceptance and surrender to the mystery of it all, to the unknowns of it all. But let's demystify this week's astrology, shall we? Let's take it into Vibe Check of the Week. So Vibe Check of the Week is a segment in which we demystify the cosmos by comparing what's playing out in this week's astrology to a real life scenario. I am not suggesting that this exact situation is going to play out within your world, although sometimes you all comment that or DM that to me that it did play out within your world, and I am shook every single time. But it's really meant to be a metaphoric storytelling device in order to acquaint you with the energies by giving a hypothetical of how it may show up. And so we will say in this week's Vibe Check of the Week, you are a poet. And even just calling yourself that actually makes you a little uncomfortable because you're not really a poet, but to your heart, to your soul, you're a poet. You've always written poems when you were younger. You're a very sensitive, misunderstood soul. And it felt like expressing yourself through poetry was the only way that you could allow your story to be told. And you keep this love for poetry very sacred within your soul. You have a notebook with all of your poems that you don't share to anyone. And you really have not pursued poetry or put your poetry out there, not since you were younger. You remember that you're a part of a poetry slam, and you'll never forget how that felt, sharing your poetry, which is very heartfelt and soulful and drawn from some very painful experiences that you have gone through. You remember how that felt, sharing that. It was like you felt naked and vulnerable on stage, but you also felt alive and exhilarated. And when other people came to you and told you that they resonated with your work, you'll never forget how deeply seen you felt, because this is a side of your soul and a side of your heart that the outer world doesn't really have access to. And so that's a part of you that's so sacred and so deep. To know that other people understood this part of you that felt so misunderstood and has experienced so much pain, in many ways it made you feel so much less alone. You know, sometimes we feel alone because we keep so much of our authentic self shrouded in the shadows. So of course we don't feel seen. We're not allowing ourselves to be seen. And that has been a dominant theme within your life. And you always think about that poetry slam and just how scary it felt to allow your heart to bear and your soul to shine, but also how gratifying it felt, how alive you felt, how seen you felt. And as time marched on, you still fill up all of your notebooks with your poetry, but you keep it hidden. You keep it sacred. Your words are just for you. But there has been this pull of wanting to share them more, wanting to invite people into these private corridors of your soul. So you decide to look up to see if there's any poetry groups that meet where you could work on this skill, where you could hone and refine your craft. That's very alive currently with Mars and Virgo, this journey of wanting to improve, wanting to hone in on what we are doing and what we could be doing better. And so you find this poetry club and you are deeply moved by what a lot of people are sharing at the poetry club. And it comes time for you to share one of your poems, and getting in front of the rest of the poets makes you feel so uncomfortable because you're like, who do I think I am? Who do I think I am? I'm not a poet. I'm just a weirdo who fills up way too many notebooks with my dark thoughts. And as you go up to read your poem, every part of you wants to run out and be like, never mind. Never mind, I changed my mind. I'm not going to read my poem. But you decide to really push through, and you experience that same feeling of the poetry slam way back when, of feeling exhilarated, alive, vulnerable, open, exposed. I mean, this is the deepest reservoir of your heart and your soul and your thoughts and your experiences and your trauma and your pain that you are just bearing to these utter strangers in poetry club. But it makes you feel so alive. It makes you feel so alive. There's a reason why you keep coming back to the notebook and writing poems, because being able to take your emotions, which at many points can feel swirling and mysterious and all over the place, being able to put it into words is so gratifying. To be able to share your story to other humans makes you feel so profoundly seen. While you're not sure where your poetry will take you, you're not sure if people were freaked out by some of your dark thoughts within your poem, you know that you are calling in more of this. More feeling seen, more expressing myself, more seeing myself as someone who's worthy of expressing, more prioritization of what makes me feel alive, more growth. And when you take your sacred poems from your pages where they're safe, that seed is safe beneath the soil, when you allow it to be out in the world, yes, it is a risk. Yes, you are opening yourself up to constructive criticism at the poetry club, and maybe even some people judging you for some of your dark thoughts that were in your poem, for people's judgment and scrutiny. But this is the price to pay for growth. And this new moon aligned with Jupiter is about growth, but not just growth of commas in our bank account and accolades in the external world. No, soul growth. And you know, what is good for the soul is not always helpful for the ego. That's going to be important to keep in mind this week because there could be some humbling moments, like having your audio file delete after you've filmed, or having certain people at the poetry club highlight arenas of growth within your poetry, or just feeling that energy of potential judgment or scrutiny because it's like now the deepest, darkest crevices of my soul is now open to being perceived. Like sometimes that's very hard for our ego to take in all of those things, and that's where we can keep things sacred. My thoughts and my words and my poems, if I keep them in the notebook, that makes them not accessible. And that makes me not accessible to allow these inner reservoirs of my soul to be seen and to be judged. Sometimes that's why we hide away certain components of ourselves, is because we don't want these intimate parts of ourselves to be seen and then rejected. So it's much better to not feel seen at all, to shroud so much of ourselves and our authenticity in darkness, because better that than having someone know the real us and to feel rejected for it. And so when we listen to our ego, sometimes it can feel like the safer move to keep it hidden, keep it private, keep it to the pages of the notebook. Then you won't be judged, then you won't be criticized, and we can keep ourselves safe within that, because putting something out there, we have to confront ways that we can grow, ways that we can get better, which again is soul growth. You will meet new sides of yourself. You will become the poet that you were destined to be, the flower that you were destined to bloom into. And this is not going to show up around all of us reading our intimate poetry this week. Some of you can find that you share something on social media, or you feel inspired to tell your story in some sort of way with Mercury in Leo, trining Saturn and Neptune. Some of you can decide that there is a desire within you that you want to take seriously, something that makes you happy that you want to continue to call in and nourish and nurture. So we will go ahead and take it into our day-by-day analysis. I just want to let you know that I utilize time zone PDT, so please adjust to your local time zone before making a note of these energies, as many of them may land at a different time or even on a different date than the one that I state. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into the astrology for Monday, June 23rd. So your astrology forecast for Monday, June 23rd. Happy Monday. Happy Magic Monday. I want to highlight firstly that the Cancer Sun squares off with Neptune in Aries at 1:29 a.m. This aspect lands right on the heels of the Cancer Sun squaring Saturn in Aries, which happened yesterday. You can listen to last week's Magic Monday to get the lowdown on that particular aspect. But it's important to take both of these energies into account as it relates to navigating your Monday, because there may be shades of still feeling that Sun square Saturn energy around feeling a little humbled, humbled by the universe, certain ego checks, or just frustrating situations, cough, cough, audio files, not being able to be recovered, or whatever your lifey stuff. Saturn energy could just be like, ugh, really? Limitations and barriers that impede or restrict our ability to express ourselves, to shine our light. And sometimes this is because mean audio programs out there steal 3 hours of our talking into the mic from us. And sometimes we do that to ourselves. We're hard on ourselves. Oh, don't read your poem at poetry club. No one's going to like it. Don't go to poetry club. You're not a poet. Who do you think you are? Sometimes we can be our own biggest bully, honestly. And we can keep ourselves in directions around, this feels good, this makes me happy, because we restrict ourselves around, no, you're not a poet. You're not good at this. It can lead to distortion. Because today the Sun squares Neptune, and Neptune fogs, blurs, and confuses. And it is doing so to our sense of self with its square to the Sun. And sometimes we distort our own vision of ourselves around, you're not a poet. You're not even a fleck of dust on this planet. You are useless. You're worthless. Nobody wants to hear your poems. That's not true. That's a distortion, and not a very helpful one at all. And absolutely, sometimes this ego distortion can absolutely skew in the other direction. You know, the Sun aligns with Jupiter tomorrow, and you may encounter individuals who are very grandiose, who are very narcissistic, who have quite a bit of hubris. about them. A very distorted version of self around you really think that you are God's gift to humanity and you want everybody else to play into your delusion. Like, okay. Sometimes people can absolutely take this to the extreme, and you may interact with some of those types of people. And sometimes we do this to ourselves, like I said, even if it's just like to deal with the sting of rejection, just to be like, if we do get criticism at poetry club, like they don't know what they're talking about anyway. Like I'm an artiste and art cannot be touched nor judged, which again, if it's genuine and it's an expression of you, no one can really say it's right or wrong. But getting into that mentality gets in the way of growth and getting better, which the Virgo Mars is very lit up by doing right now. My encouragement would be to really fake it till you make it to a certain degree, to embody what it is that you are wanting to be and what you are wanting to express. To walk into that poetry club around, I am a poet. How would a poet get dressed? How would a poet put on their makeup to embody that? Because oftentimes you find that you elicit parts of yourself that you didn't even know that you had when you dare yourself to see yourself within that particular lens. This has a lot to do with self-concept, and we deny ourselves the opportunity to meet new sides of ourselves if we don't dare to see ourselves that way. Sometimes you find new parts of yourself. You guys know, if you watch Magic Monday, you know how I feel about alter egos. I'm very into alter egos because something fascinating happens when you have an alter ego. Even if it's genuinely you, like you are still your poems. Like this is very sacred and heartfelt and authentic, but you just have this poet name. We'll say that you go by the poet name Planetary Poet. You write under the name Planetary Poet or something like this. It's still you. It's your words. It's your heart. It's your soul. But having that way of expressing yourself sometimes allows you to tap into new sides of yourself around, me, the human, is a little scared and vulnerable to reveal this about myself. But Planetary Poet puts it all out there, is bold and vulnerable and messy and expressive. And sometimes in giving ourselves permission to be that way, we sometimes find different parts of ourselves where I didn't know I could be that bold. I didn't know I could walk into poetry club as though I owned the place. I didn't know that I could share these very dark, vulnerable poems with as much bravado as I was able to access. Sometimes you pull out new sides of you. You extract more you out of you. And it's not that you are literally creating and building an alternate version of self. It's just allowing yourself to play. Or how would my poet self read this poem? How would my yoga instructor self lead this class? It's stepping into that. And then you find new attributes of your own leadership, new attributes of your own charisma, of your boldness, of your courage that you had within you all along. We don't get those gifts unless we have the courage and the boldness to break free of the seed. And Neptune is that shapeshifter energy where it's like getting ready as the version of you who has what it is that you desire, or really allowing yourself to feel into what it would feel like to read this poem to an auditorium of people. It might just be poetry club right now, but step into that version of you who's reading it as though you are channeling it out to many, many souls of people who are very invested within your work. Sometimes that can be a very powerful way to manifest, to pretend as if, and it's not about the thing or the actions of it necessarily. Like, I'm not saying if you want to be a millionaire, go out and spend lots of money. It's getting into the feeling. What would the millionaire version of me feel like? What would the poet version of me who has many, many readers all around the globe, what would it feel like to put out this work? Tapping into the feeling, that's the magnetic part. That's the abundant part. It's just stepping into the feeling of it. How would it feel to be that version of me that maybe I see if I squint my eyes and look into the horizon, but I'm actively calling it in by the feeling of it. And it's allowing that feeling to guide you around, I know this is where I'm meant to be because it feels right, because I feel alive, because it feels good to create. But the energy of Neptune, sometimes there can be blurred lines. You could oscillate between those two extremes, around one moment being like, I'm a fleck of dust and none of these poems make any sense. Then on the other moment, having like a God complex around these poems are so beautiful, they don't even deserve to be heard by human ears. There could be oscillations of all sorts of things. We talked about this last week, emotions and energy levels. This week, it feels particularly confidence levels, moments where you're like, I've got this, I can do this. And then moments you're like, what am I doing? Our sense of self-concept might be a little distorted today. And again, make that work for you in the ways that you're able to make it work for you, but just be conscious if you're beating yourself up with that separating Saturn square. I also want to mention here, we will of course talk about it more, but right now, Neptune and Saturn are positioned in nearly the same portion of the sky. They are flirting. They're flirting in the cosmos, but they do not officially get together until February 2026. And they get together in the most dramatic way possible. They align at 0 degrees Aries. 0 degrees is the first degree within the zodiac. It all begins with 0 degrees Aries. A conjunction between these two planets at 0 degrees Aries has not been documented for as long as we've been tracking the sky. It truly feels like we are shifting into a new era, so to speak, with these planets aligning at the very first degree of the zodiac. It feels like a new dawn, a new day, a new beginning. And so we may be getting some previews. And so on Monday, we have this Neptune residue. So your dreams could have been quite interesting. You're like, again, with Neptune energy, we can lose track of boundaries around where does my waking life begin and where does my dream world stop. There could be nightmares that you feel like you're carrying with you into the day, or just dreams that you feel like you're carrying with you into the day around, did I have a dream that I went to space last night? Like, have a moment during your daily reality where you have deja vu around, have I done this before? Neptune energy can just fog what's real and what's fantasy. And so you might find certain moments in your Monday where you're like, what's happening? What is life really? And you can find that also skews your focus. You could find that you feel a little bit more distracted. You feel a little bit more scattered. You can feel more sensitive when it comes to Neptune energy. The Gemini moon trines Pluto in Aquarius in the wee morning hours, like around 1 a.m. So this could be a nudge around equipping yourself with information that makes you feel more powerful, or feeling connected to other humans in a way that makes you feel more confident of your own resilience or your own ability to persist, or of humanity's ability to persist. And then the Gemini moon squares Mars in Virgo. So you can just feel very all over the place, very distracted, very exhausted. Also, there could be an energy with the Neptune haze that's in the air. That's kind of how Neptune energy feels, where you just feel drained. We're in the waning crescent moon as we prepare for Wednesday's new moon. And this is a lunar phase that can be concerned with releasing and shedding. So that could be showing up around belongings within your home, clutter within your home, but even just emotions, stories that no longer serve you. It's important to highlight that because Mercury squares Chiron very early on Tuesday. So you're going to feel this alive within your Monday, and the Gemini moon is answering to that Mercury. So if old stories come up around you're a loser, no one wants to read your poems, allow that to be swept away, just like a wave on a shore. Right? With the Sun square Neptune energy, let it be swept away. Acknowledge that it's coming up and acknowledge that's not a story that's serving me. That's not a way of seeing myself that's particularly helpful. I'm going to allow that to be swept away. On Tuesday, June 24th, at 12:16 a.m. PDT, Mercury in Cancer squares Chiron in Aries. And this represents words that wound. There could be things that are said to you or things you say to yourself that leave a mark, so to speak, an ouch sensation. And it could cause you to want to withdraw, retreat. We've talked a lot about fluctuations of Cancer season by way of emotions and energy levels and confidence. But another part of this is around the wax and wane of wanting to be visible and wanting to be private, right? Like, think of the ruler of Cancer, the moon. It is fully exposed at some parts of the lunar cycle, and then it hides itself away in some parts of the month. And right now, we're in the dark moon phase. Tomorrow's the new moon, so it's hidden. So you could also feel this desire to want to withdraw. Either words were said to you that's like, ouch, I need to like lick my wounds. I need to withdraw into what's sacred in order to rehabilitate myself, in order to come back out of my shell. Or there could just be an energy where you don't want to be perceived because you feel like you're going to be judged as critically and as harshly as you are judging yourself. Again, you're not seeing yourself clearly at this time with that sun squaring Neptune energy, Mercury in Cancer squaring Chiron. You could be exaggerating all of your blemishes, all of your flaws, and not wanting to be seen because you're like, they're going to see what I see. They're going to judge what I judge. So better not to be perceived. And you could even do this as it relates to your communication, like wanting to share something heartfelt and soulful with someone significant within your world, but feeling isolated from doing so around what if they judge me? What if this part of me is so not lovable that I tell them this and they no longer want to be my friend or they no longer want to be my partner? Better keep this sacred, better keep this hidden. And again, some feelings are just for you. Some poems are just for your notebook. It's not saying everything needs to be out there communicated. And it's checking in around your reasons of hiding away is important because again, we are cyclical beings. The moon is not full the entire month. It hides in darkness and then it is fully illuminated again. There's cycles, there's rhythms. It's not saying that you always need to put yourself out there or allow your soul to be exposed, your poems to leave your notebook, but it is checking in on your reasons for keeping it sacred and secret. Again, is it something that you're just like, this is special and this is for me? Or is there an energy around, what if I am judged if I share this? What if I talk about what I'm going through to my friend and they are bored of me because they just want to be around fun friends who talk about lighthearted things? Or what if I tell my partner around the struggles that I'm having with my mental health and they feel like I'm flawed and they feel like I'm inadequate? Like, it's checking in on your reasonings because with Chiron kind of whispering in our ear, there could be an energy of rehearsing and repeating what our wounded self holds to be true around ourselves. Around, yeah, no one's going to like you if you're not fun all of the time. Yeah, your partner's not going to love you if they know how much it is that you mentally struggle. No one's going to want to hear your poems. They're going to think you're weird. Nobody goes through these things. And that's what's so powerful about art, particularly in poems and songs and all of the things. You know, we do have an artistic vibe this week, hence the vibe check. Art can sometimes plunge us into those parts around, we all go through stuff. Like, again, it shows up in different shades and different arenas, but we all know what it feels like to be rejected. We all know what it feels like to feel lonely. We all know what it feels like to feel isolated. We all know what it feels like to feel ostracized. We all have unique experiences, but no one, not one person on this planet is exempt from human suffering during their time here on Earth. And sometimes it takes being vulnerable and open around your experiences and how it is that you alchemize that into your art or your social media posts or into your heartfelt conversations with friends that can allow people to feel very deeply seen. And furthermore, validating that you're allowed to be seen for who it is that you are. And that feels relevant because at 8:17 a.m., we have the sun aligning with Jupiter, which if we just take this particular aspect, this is exuberant. This is joyous. This is grateful. This is confident. This is being visible. But again, it takes its emotive tone with its placement in Cancer. And this was represented in the vibe check around that exhilarating moment of standing in front of your poetry class and allowing these vulnerable emotional stirrings from your heart and soul to be visible, to be seen for them, which again can be a little scary. Cancer is represented by the crab. Sometimes there's moments where we want to go back into our shell around, okay, that was quite a bit, maybe even certain shades around like a vulnerability hangover. If you share something very honest with someone, then you're like, gosh, being perceived, this is a lot. But it's knowing that that poet version within you, or whatever version you're wanting to call in with this Cancer new moon, it exists within you, and you can tell from the feeling, that passion that you plug into as you read your poetry, that is a line that connects you to your higher self or to that future version of self who is sharing poetry in front of an auditorium filled with people. And it's not calling that in because you want the auditorium full of people. It's calling that in because this is what you love. This is what makes you happy. There's a reason why you keep coming back to the notebook and filling your pages filled with poems. There's a reason why I have always been nerding out about astrology. I didn't know why or what it was leading me to, but I could tell I was tapping into something real and true because of how it made me feel. And so Tuesday's astrology is interesting because yes, with Mercury square Chiron, you can be a little in your head. There can be certain insecurities that are prodded out, certain vulnerable conversations that are had, certain words that are shared to you that you're like, ouch. And, with Mercury in Cancer, we all are kind of reading the emotional subtext in any sort of email or text message. So it could be something that someone writes to you and you're like, do they hate me? Do they absolutely hate me? We can be a little sensitive at a time such as this. You also could feel easily triggered, like someone makes a comment and you react. Keep in mind, Cancer is a cardinal sign, a cardinal water sign. Cardinal is concerned with action. Water is concerned with emotion. So reacting based on emotion, and that could be impacting your words. And again, if a soft spot is triggered, automatically wanting to go on the defense or protect yourself. It's important to know what your mind's role is. Your mind's role is to scan out for threats to your survival. So of course, it's going to look at that opportunity of reading your poetry in front of people and steer you away from that and give you all sorts of reasons why you should not do that. Or if you have been hurt before, if you have felt wounded before, if you felt rejected before, of course, it's going to steer you away from putting yourself out there in dating or putting yourself out there for that leadership opportunity, because it reminds you, hey, remember that time that you were ostracized? Remember that time you were rejected? Remember that time you got your hopes up? Because your mind just wants you to avoid danger by any means necessary. And that could be the dominant story, at least mentally, at this time. And yet, with Sun's alignment to Jupiter, there's a whisper, there's a calling, there's a stirring around this feels right. And this is the path that promises growth. This allows me to meet new sides of me. This allows me to connect and deeply bond with the poet side of me, what have you. And it's knowing that the mind can take anything good that's happening, because there can be good that's happening right now. The Sun aligns with Jupiter around 8 a.m. The mind can take anything good that's happening and see something wrong with it. Oh, I got $1 million. Oh, think of the taxes. Oh, I got this opportunity to speak in front of a panel. Oh, what if they judge my professional background because it looks different than other people? Our mind is wired to find problems to solve and solve them, which again can be helpful with Mars and Virgo in this theme of improving and refining, but it's not giving tasks to the mind that are for the soul around, yes, every new level, every new opportunity, every new season of my life will have certain problems that meet me there. There will be certain risks that await there. But if it prompts something within me, if it makes me feel a particular way, if I feel pulled intuitively towards this direction, there's something for me there. And like we've been talking about with tomorrow's new moon, it's a lot around calling in from the emotion that you want to experience and seeing where it is that you can conjure, where it is that you are currently, where it is that you can bloom where you are planted. Again, this is where the seed is planted. This is where you are. Where can you bloom where it is that you are currently? Where can you reach towards the light where it is that you are currently? If you want to call in more love, what makes you feel loved within your current reality? If you want to call in more gratitude, what makes you feel grateful within this particular moment? If you want abundance within your world, how can you grab hold of those moments of abundance and how they show up currently, which may not have to do with money. Maybe there's an energy around being out in the sunshine on a sunny day. Remember to wear SPF, learn from me. Learn from me and reapply. Don't turn into full mermaid. Okay. But maybe that makes you feel abundant because you feel free. There's more than enough. Or maybe when you're laughing with your friends, you feel that energy of wealth, that there's enough to go around. It's like plugging into the shades of where that emotion is alive currently, even if it's showing up in a different way than how you would want it to show up. And it's just calling in more this, please. Universe, more this. And again, life can be so harsh and cruel. You got to take those moments of magic and consciously expand them. And I do want to also highlight that Jupiter expands when it touches. And with it on Sun, yes, it is expanding creativity and life force energy and identity and visibility in all of these beautiful ways. But I do want to highlight you can encounter individuals who are a little big for their britches, who think that the sun should rise and set in accordance to their needs. If you know anyone like that, people who have a very elevated perspective of themselves and want everybody else to buy into their own delusion, I just want to highlight, this feels relevant with Mercury square Chiron. I know it's not always something that seems feasible, but a lot of times those are the individuals who are the most insecure. And these are the individuals who don't want to be criticized whatsoever, because to be criticized means confronting that they are a flawed human. And a lot of times they've built this false sense of self in order to evade that very fact. They know it deep down. And they're very insecure of that. So sometimes they will build these delusions of grandeur and they will feed on other people's validation or revolving around them in order to distract themselves from the undercurrent within of feeling like they are not enough. So just wanted to highlight that just in case there's one person out there who needs to hear that and needs to remember that. Again, any sort of confident person does not require other people to buy into their fantasy or their delusions of grandeur in order to prop up their inflated sense of self. And when it comes to Tuesday's astrology, like I said, we're preparing for the new moon. So if you do feel inclined to release things that don't serve, emotions that don't serve. And again, with that Mercury square Chiron at the beginning of the day, and then the Gemini moon sextile Chiron at 3:11 p.m. PDT, there's also an opportunity today to coach yourself, to clock those stories as they come up around nobody wants to hear your poetry, or nobody cares what you have to say, or even certain comments or things that are said to you that grab hold of a very alive, raw wound within you. There's an opportunity to coach yourself through it in order to see it in the broader perspective of things. Again, like I said, our mind will see anything and turn it into a problem, even if it is a path of growth and a path of expansiveness. Our mind will zero in on the potential flaws or danger that it brings up. I had a psychic reading crash out. Have you guys ever had that before, where you're just spiraling and you last minute book a psychic reading because you're just like, what am I even doing? And I feel very blessed that I have some amazing intuitives who I work with and who I trust. And it's never from this perspective around tell me what's going to happen in the future, because that's not a very empowering way to live. I mostly consult with intuitives around getting a soul look at what I'm going through and giving me tools of how I can navigate it. I think that's the real value as it relates to psychic readings, even astrology readings. That's always what I'm fascinated by. So I was having to crash out, as one is subject to do, Cancer season, feeling all the things. And I met with this intuitive who just really helped me step out of what I was crashing out about, because the crash out was very of the mind. It was very of the mind, and it was so helpful to take a step back and see, no, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. From a bigger perspective, this is a good thing. But my mind, all it was zeroed in on were the problems. And what if I let these people down? Or what if this happens? Or what if this happens? And it was really helpful to work with an intuitive. It was like, hey, take a step back. Look at the bigger picture here. Look at what's playing out. And sometimes those mental reframes with the Gemini moon, sextile Chiron and Aries can be helpful. It doesn't take the pain away. It doesn't take the discomfort away, but it helps you see it in its proper size, in the bigger perspective of it all. And the moon will enter Cancer at 8:44 p.m., going on to square Saturn at 11:28 p.m. and then Neptune in the wee hours of the morning tomorrow. So with Neptune energy, there could be interesting dreams, and you could feel heavy with the Cancer moon squaring Saturn in Aries. Things can feel hard. You could be feeling quite sensitive. You could be feeling too sensitive to survive. You could be wanting to hide away. Like I said, there could be vulnerability hangovers where you shared a lot to a coworker. Then you're like at night, what did I say? Or you shared that poem and you're like, gosh, that was meant to be within the college ruled lines of my notebook. I can't believe it's out into the world. Just nourish yourself and nurture yourself in those downs. Trust, as with all things, this too shall pass. On Wednesday, June 25th, we have the new moon in Cancer landing at 3:32 a.m. PDT. This new moon lands at 4 degrees Cancer. So when you look at your circle chart, you'll want to see which house within your chart holds 4 degrees Cancer. When we reference this, we are talking about a particular location of the sky. The house that lands in for you is the territory that's very fertile for new beginnings, for joyful, jubilant, exuberant new beginnings, with this new moon aligning with Jupiter. New beginnings that are conducive for growth, that potentially challenge and humble the ego, that potentially scare the mind, but that excite and exhilarate the soul. And when it comes to this new moon, it squares off with Saturn. So it's almost like the challenges that create new beginnings, in a sense. I don't know why this analogy is coming through, but it's almost like the manure that makes the soil really viable and really nutrient dense, that supports growth. It's like, it's not pleasant in and of itself, but it can create a new beginning. Sorry, that was a little gross, but that's the vibe here, where it's like, yes, I was blocked and limited from our initial Magic Monday episode. Yes, it sucks to have to learn all of this technology, but I also honor all of these growing pains of what I am currently experiencing is supporting me within this new beginning, with my new equipment and within this era. It's hard to work that muscle. You know, I wouldn't rush you to get to the other side of it. Sometimes you got to crash out. You got to feel your feelings. You got to have a temper tantrum, whatever you need to do. Just be like, dang, I really wanted this opportunity. And I get it, universe. I get that you have a better plan for me, but oof, like I feel rejected. I really got my hopes up about this. And I can hold two things at once. I can trust the universe while also being like, dang, this freaking sucks. I can hold the trust around this Magic Monday is likely going to contain more codes of something that someone out there needs to hear, while also maintaining, dang, that sucks that I had to rearrange all of my plans today. And there's more to the story. This new moon squares Neptune. So there's more that will come to the surface. We may see with time around, oh, I see the value in that particular hard experience that I had, how it set me up for this. Or, oh, I see how learning to back up my audio when it's recording, how that is actually going to serve me better moving in the future. Or I see now that if I would have taken this particular position, I wouldn't have been open and available to work for this particular position that altered the course of my reality. This doesn't mean it doesn't suck in the moment. Feel the feelings of it, feel the human part of it, but know that spirit is aligning and orchestrating and designing behind the curtain, so to speak. And there's an ask to trust in it, to again, be definitive around calling in gratitude, calling in more joy, calling in more love, to be sure on that, to be open. Universe, you know my heart, you know my soul, you know my gifts, you know my talents. This is how I want to feel. Align me with whatever circumstances, people, and opportunities will bring me more this, more please. And again, receiving what the universe is giving with a grateful heart, knowing that that makes us a magnet for miracles. Jupiter and Neptune energy, this new moon is the stuff of miracles, but it's not going to show up in the way that you would expect. And it also could be rife with some redirections, rejections with the square to Saturn, some resistance, but universal assistance with the square to Saturn, and some mysteries with the square to Neptune. And you don't need to know where it's all going. You just need to plug into what feels good now, what makes you feel alive now, and to tune into that, expand that, exaggerate that within your life. So even if there are larger things that you're trying to fight against or advocate for yourself or others against, tuning into more peace, more equality, more this, more acceptance, more tolerance for different human beings and the walks of life that they are from. Like, of course, there is a nature within human life where we have to battle against the bad, but don't forget to expand the good around more this and calling in more of those moments, whether it's time with loved ones, time reading your poems, what have you, where you lose track of where you start and the poem ends, or you lose track of time when you're laughing with your friends. You lose track of hours when you're at the beach, like when you're in flow state and it just feels good. New moon in Cancer squaring Neptune. More please of those moments where you forget where your phone is. You forget what time it is. You forget to apply SPF. I mean, let's all make sure that we're taking care of our skin, but those moments where it just feels good and allowing that to be a magnet around more laughter, more time in the sun, feeling that exhilaration of reading your poem in front of the class and being like, more this, more feeling alive, more creative expression, more vulnerability, more honesty, more this. And that's where we become the magicians of our universe, is really expanding those moments, because sometimes it's like, well, Haley Comet, I want more joy. And it really does not feel like there's a lot of joy within my life. Find it within the smallest slivers if you must, and expand it. Actively say more this. And my encouragement for you, knowing that this new moon window is available and accessible for the next 3 days, do something that is conducive for joy, happiness, fulfillment, gratitude, creativity, gratitude, whatever it is that you are wanting to call in this very sacred, soulful energy. That is the most potent ritual of all when it comes to this new moon in Cancer. Yes, you can write the affirmations. Yes, you could do the vision board. You can do whatever feels intuitively right. Let's be real. It's Cancer season. Honor your intuition. But it's really really zeroing in on the feeling. When you tune into the feeling and are like, universe, more this, surprise me when it comes to what you align me to, that's where the magic of this new moon is centered. On Thursday, June 26th, Mercury does enter Leo today, but before it does, we get one final aspect from the Mercury and Cancer story. And that is that around 2 a.m., Mercury will sextile Uranus in Taurus, which does indicate novel ideas, creative brainstorming, thinking outside of the box. And that is an unexpected gift when we are definitive on the feeling, but open to the vehicle that will deliver that to us. As sometimes we get surprised. Sometimes we get surprised. Sometimes we could not have even conceptualized or envisioned something for us, but then we get there and we're like, this is exactly the right fit. Sometimes you surprise yourself by the poem that you write. You're like, where did that come from? I surprise myself every single week with what comes out of my mouth. I mean, it's like literally kind of weirding me out a little bit how different this take is from the one I recorded yesterday. It's like the same astrology, but I have not said one similar analogy phrase as I did yesterday. Like, it's kind of weirding me out a little bit, but I think that's the power of creativity. And I think that's the power of allowing things to flow without judgment. Something that I'm moved to share is that Cancer is, of course, represented by the moon, which reflects. So it reflects the light of the sun, and the work of poets and artists and astrologers and creatives at large is to reflect energy back to the collective, to reflect feelings back to the collective, but to take things as they are and to illuminate them out without judgment. And that feels relevant to say because with the sextile to Uranus, Uranus is the archetype of like the kooky mad scientist energy. And so with Mercury sextile Uranus, it's like think outside of the box, write outside of the box, share outside of the box. Do not feel like you need to be understood. Your work is to reflect what is honest and true and real within that moment or within the astrology or whatever it is that you are sharing out into the world. So there could be some kooky conversations that you have with other individuals or a random inspired idea that comes in. Listen to your intuition. It could be an energy of you owning your genius, sharing the idea at work that's a little out there, or having a conversation with a coworker on a niche topic that you happen to know a lot about, or having a social media post that's a little different than what it is that you typically post, but it felt real and honest at the moment. And allowing your intuition to guide that, because after that, the Cancer sun will sextile Mars in Virgo. So allowing your intuition to guide you towards what risks you want to take, what actions you want to move towards. Because yes, we have this Jupiter alignment this week, so it is a very say yes sort of vibe and energy, but not everything is for you, and your intuition will guide you towards what is. Again, the moon has its cycles of its waxes and wanes. It's not visible all of the time. It's not full all of the time. It's not available all of the time. You don't need to as well. And sometimes it's helpful to conserve your energy or even just honor it as a marathon and not a sprint with Mars and Virgo, and to fall in love with the process of doing it, to fall in love with the craft of it. You know, the process of getting better at it, the process of nurturing your talent, to build on that seed analogy. Like you could have all of this talent and potential within you, but you've got to water that seed. We've got to nourish our talent. We've got to nurture our talent by showing up for it regularly and falling in love with the craft of it, with the process of it, not just the end result of it. That's what will keep you showing up. That's what will keep you consistent. If you do something purely for the end result and for the applause, it will not be sustainable. Fall in love with the process of being your best self. Fall in love with the process of improving. Fall in love with the process altogether. You know, Cancer in astrology is the archetypal mom. And yes, we can take into account that the goal of being a parent is to raise happy, adjusted human beings. But I would imagine no parents out there would want to fast forward to that end result. It's about the process of growing these humans, of raising these humans, of making memories with these humans. Same goes as it relates to our creative pursuits or our careers. Fall in love with the process of it. Fall in love with the process of becoming. So that's what will allow you to keep showing up and draw the most you out of you, because you know that poet exists within you. You feel it and you embody that energy. But in order to bridge the gap, it does take diligence. It does take persistence. It does take showing up. Like for me, if I did not love this sitting in front of this camera, yes, it feels good when a video goes up and there's someone who says, oh my goodness, this astrology resonated with me in some sort of way. Of course, that feels gratifying. Of course, that feels fulfilling. But I do it because I love this. I love this. And if I didn't love it, I probably wouldn't be refilming today. And those emotions within you that you experience can inspire you to take risks in ways that you would not have ever thought possible. You know, the process of becoming a parent, you could connect to new sides of your strength you didn't realize was there. Or in your journey in being a poet, connect to new sides of your boldness you didn't realize was there. Or your journey of becoming a leader at your company, connect to new sides of your assertiveness that you did not know was there. Sometimes you're surprised by the new sides of yourself that show up where you're like, oh, I didn't know that was within me. Mercury's entrance into Leo at 12:09 p.m. I don't know how this happened. I feel like we just had one, but yes, a Mercury retrograde is on the horizon. Mercury will enter its pre-shadow retrograde at 4 degrees Leo, aka on Monday, June 30th. So I just want to give you a heads up around that. It's not that you need to rush. We're working on divine timing, okay? We're honoring the fluctuations of all things. I'm not saying you have to rush to launch that book that you've been working on. Like everything unfolds exactly as it's meant to. But if there's something that you want to start, if there's something that you want to initiate, if there's something that you want to get signed, consider bucketing some energy towards it right now. We're also in a pretty good energy around new beginnings. I want to let you know that. I have a podcast episode all around how to pick the perfect launch date or to better understand the chart of a project or a business that you've already put it out into the world. And I talk about how I came to choose the astrology chart of my podcast. And I talk about the art truly of designing the perfect chart as it relates to like a launch or a release of some sort. And one of the tips that I talk about with that podcast is, of course, not having Mercury retrograde and preferably having Mercury in new territory, as well as being in the waxing side of the moon, which we are in. So we're in the waxing side of the moon, which is conducive for new beginnings and things growing and expanding. And this is also the last slice of time that we have Mercury in new degrees, or at least degrees that it will not return back to. So just saying, if you've been sitting on something and contemplating the perfect timing, there is a lot of supportive energy in this latter half of this week's astrology, but it's a small sliver of time. It's a small sliver of time. So if there's something new that you want to work on, because Mercury retrogrades, it's not that life needs to pause. It could be a great time to refine, to reread, to recalibrate, to close loose ends, to fill in the gaps, but it's just not super supportive for something brand new. So if there's something brand new, maybe talk about it, discuss it, put it on a vision board, then you can use the forthcoming Mercury retrograde to dial in the missing elements of it. But what else can we expect from Mercury's extended journey through Leo? There's going to be a lot of focus around sharing your story, boldly and courageously sharing your story. You know, Leo is the lion. Let him hear you roar. Let him hear you roar. And it's knowing that your poetry is not for everybody, your story is not for everybody, but it's not your job to be for everybody. It's not your job to be for everybody. You could be the most beautiful lily, and there will still be people who prefer sunflowers. You can write the most amazing haiku, and there will be people who prefer sonnets. It's not your job to please. It's your job to be you. That really feels to be the nudge on Thursday. Be you, be true. Mercury sextile Uranus, and then enters Leo. Shine your light. Leo is ruled by the sun. It's in the center of our solar system. It does not campaign around the universe asking, Neptune, will you revolve around me? Or Pluto, will you revolve around me? It just does its thing and the right planets come in. And the moon is in Cancer for most of the day. It does enter Leo at 11:05. Before it does, the Cancer moon squares off with Chiron, which can sometimes be this pain, this wound around not belonging. Again, it's all fun to be true and be you and own your kooky, odd scientist archetype, or own your hyperfixations into random niche topics, or to put out an idea at the boardroom that's a little off the wall. Like, it's all fun. But sometimes there is that energy around feeling different, like not having that sensation of belonging, feeling that pang around, oh, I'm different than other people here. And again, your differences is how you shine. Mercury and Leo, share your story, be bold and courageous with it. But sometimes there can be this pain around not feeling accepted, not feeling that sensation of belonging. And there can also just be wounds of the past that are activated this week, with Mercury in Cancer squaring Chiron, the Cancer moon squaring Chiron. Other people's stories that can be ricocheting within your mind. If somebody was very cruel to you and they said certain things to you that you have internalized, that you have made part of your own rhetoric. If there have been ways that people have seen you, that you've absorbed into how it is that you have seen yourself. Mercury in Leo is really encouraging you to grab hold of your own narrative. Those people do not define you. They don't know your heart. They don't know your soul. So yes, there could be bittersweet ouches alive on Thursday, memories and relics of the past, bittersweet moments, feeling something quite intensely. And if something is pinging at your heartstrings, this is a really powerful week to create, to put it into art, to put it into a story, to put it into a podcast episode, to put it into a YouTube video. It doesn't matter if the poem leaves your notebook or not. Put it into art, especially if it's weird. With the Cancer moon sextile Uranus and Taurus, this would be a great evening to try a new recipe of some sort, or even regulate or self-soothe in a new way with that sextile to Uranus. At 11:05 p.m., the moon will enter Leo, which draws our awareness to self-expression, to living a very passionate, heartfelt life. So on Friday, June 27th, at 8:53 p.m., Mercury in Leo will trine Saturn in Aries. And this is an energy to, yes, own your story, own your narrative. You are the main character of your story, the protagonist of your poem, the sun of your solar system. Absolutely. And Mercury in Leo can help you in owning your voice, in speaking your truth, telling your story, sharpening into focus your leadership, being courageous enough to allow your ideas to see the light of day. Right? And this can be a very creative energy. But with the trine to Saturn, it's a vision and a plan. Mercury is also building to trine Neptune that exacts tomorrow because Saturn and Neptune are so closely gathered within the sky. So yes, it's around envisioning and downloading and channeling, but also refining with the energy of Saturn, showing up, having structure in order to be the conduit for said visions or ideas. It's also challenging yourself, right? Putting yourself out there. If you're somebody who at the work meeting, typically you have ideas, but you don't allow them to see the light of day or be vocalized, maybe this is a time that you allow yourself to share an idea, to volunteer for something. Yes, it's a little vulnerable to put yourself out there in that particular way, but it can be a really lovely way to connect to new sides of yourself. But like I said, Mercury enters its pre-retrograde shadow on Monday. So Mercury trine Saturn is really good for any very realistic, dare I say boring tasks that you need to get done. If you need to read over a contract that you need to sign, if you need to double check your website before you hit publish, this could be helpful, responsible, realistic energy to dial into those facets to make sure that they're still you, right? That your heart's still in this contract that you're signing, that your website still feels like a reflection of your business services, but also making sure that you have terms and conditions on your website and all of those small details of any big vision, right? And keep in mind, Mars and Virgo is answering to Mercury and Leo's. Any creative vision that we have has a lot of details that support it. And again, it could be inspired and it can flow through us, but there's also arenas where we can refine, where we can convey that same sentiment with maybe less words, where we can dial in our syntax, things like this. It's remembering with Mars and Virgo to see growth as the goal, not perfection as the goal, growth as the goal. And knowing that, yes, creativity flows through and it can't be judged necessarily as right or wrong, but for you to meet the side of you who is the most embodied poet, dedicating yourself to being your own personal best. And that means dialing into the details. Where can I be doing better? With Mercury trine Saturn, this is a great day, evening to get on a plan, even if you don't consider yourself a creative or you have no desires to write poetry or anything like that. This could be really helpful to break down your visions into an actionable plan around, if I want to read this many books this summer, how many do I need to read every single week? And how can I commit to that with this waxing new moon energy and with Mercury trine Saturn, around thinking long term and allowing something that I'm passionate about to go the distance. And you can find that focus is a little bit more dialed in today. You're more concerned around planning, plotting, brainstorming, even at work. The moon aligns with Mercury in the wee hours, shortly after midnight. It trines Saturn and Neptune. So again, there can be inspired ideas that come through. Write things down. Get excited about ideas. Enthusiasm can be infectious. And so if you are a leader, being genuinely passionate about what you are sharing could be a great way to get other people also enthusiastic and passionate about what you are sharing. I was connecting with my esthetician and she was talking about the nervous system and just different ways to regulate your nervous system. And she lit up when she was talking about it. And it made me so excited about the nervous system. Before this, I didn't really think that much about the nervous system, but hearing how excited she was, like passion is an energy. When someone plugs into it, it's infectious. Move in the direction of what you are passionate about. That could be another way to get other people either excited about that topic or just lit up altogether. Follow the direction of what lights you up, but also know that passion needs a plan, right? Or that spark needs sustenance in order to go the distance, because Saturn is concerned with time. So there can be a nudge of this. You may deal with some big personalities or some power struggles as the Leo moon opposes Pluto. Reminder that while we have this juicy, lovely, visionary, yet structured Mercury trining Saturn and Neptune energy this weekend, we also have Mercury opposite Pluto, which could be obsessive, hypercritical, either you of yourself or other people to you. On Saturday, June 28th at 4:58 a.m., Mercury in Leo will trine Neptune in Aries. And the first nudge here is honor the messages and the symbolism that comes to you via your dreams. When you wake up, take a moment to consciously remember it and write it down, because sometimes there are fascinating themes that can be embedded within what happens in the ethers. And it's also remembering that you have an entire hype up squad beyond the veil via your spiritual support team who cheers you on, not with pom-poms and cartwheels, but with signs and synchronicities and coincidences. And it's important not to brush those things off. Like we were talking about within our discussion of Jupiter energy, what we focus on expands. What we're grateful for, we call in more of. So acknowledging those moments that you see an angel number in a stressful moment, or you ask for a sign and you receive it, or somebody just so happens to sit next to you that is reading the same book that you just finished. Like those little winks from the universe that just remind you, like, it's not just what we see here. Like there's so much happening beyond the veil. There's so much happening behind the curtain. There's so much that's orchestrating and aligning. And sometimes we have these events that slip into our conscious reality that make us aware of that, around what are the odds that this, where did that idea just come from? What are the odds that I would see 4 for 4 20 times today? I've been tripping out because literally for the past, I want to say month or so, 77 has been haunting me. That's what it feels like every time I check my phone. And it doesn't even make sense. It feels like every time I check my phone, my battery level is at 77%. I've been walking multiple times and I've seen people with sports jerseys with the number 77. I'm like, okay, universe, I hear you. I hear you screaming at me, but like, what does it mean? And sometimes with Mercury trine Neptune, even this new moon square Neptune, we're not meant to know it all right now. Sometimes just allowing ourselves to be mystified and delighted by the mysteries of the universe. And sometimes we find our own answers within the questions around, what does 77 mean for me? What comes up every time I see 77? What does the energy of 7 bring up for me? Like, it's not just around getting the definitive answer around this is why the universe is bringing up this sign or synchronicity. Sometimes we find that on the journey of the questioning, of the mystery of it. Like, why is 77 haunting me? Why is 77 haunting me? But some things are not meant to be revealed at this time being, but it's fun to go on that journey and just to notice the signs. I'm a big believer when we observe those small signs and synchronicities, the universe gives us more of them. And if you are a writer, this is a really lovely weekend to write, to really allow yourself to be a conduit for the divine, for ideas just to flow through. I don't mean this literally, but I think of the quote by Ernest Hemingway, write drunk, edit sober. When I think of this weekend's astrology, not that I'm advocating to drink while writing. I think we know quite a few writers where that has not gone terribly well for them. But with the energy of Mercury trine Neptune, allow your ideas to come through in a very raw, sometimes messy, but deeply expressive fashion. Like, put it out there. Don't get into your critical mind where you judge it as it's coming out. And that feels relevant to mention because Mercury opposes Pluto tomorrow. We have a Virgo moon tomorrow, which can sometimes be hypercritical or even judging what's coming out of us as it's coming out. Like, sometimes you got to let the ideas breathe on the page and then you can edit and then you can refine. Don't allow yourself to step into the mind around how is this going to be perceived. You know, the sun doesn't illuminate its rays and think, but what is Saturn going to think? It just shines. And so I don't mean to literally write drunk and edit sober. I just mean allow it to be messy and raw and you. And you can go back and refine Mars and Virgo, getting dialed into all of the details of it. But it's allowing the process of creation and putting it all out there, especially if you want to work on something with the upcoming Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrogrades are great for editing and refining. Firstly, get it on the page, get it out there. Get the idea out and breathing to the world. And don't step into other people's perceptions thinking how they're going to perceive it. You're not there yet. Just allow it to flow, because sometimes that can censor or inhibit what is moving through. And if you're not a writer, with Mercury trine Neptune, again, this is looking for magic within your daily reality. This is honoring the synchronistic moments around what are the odds that I would sit next to someone and have this very conversation or meet someone who is interested in the same spiritual teachings that I am, or connect with someone who just so happens to have my favorite band. Like, what are the odds of this? Like, following the magic, following the mystery, having heartfelt conversations with others that open up to a bigger world, as well as allowing yourself to play. Mercury is in Leo in a lot of places around the world. It's summertime. Allow yourself to play, and play you will, because the Leo moon squares Venus and Taurus around 5:23 p.m. PDT. And so this is bougie energy. This is overdoing it energy. So you could walk into a boutique and accidentally spend way too much money. You could go out to dinner and get way too many appetizers. There's a larger than life indulgent energy on Saturday to be mindful of. But sometimes it could be healing to be a little larger than life, right? The Leo moon sextiles Chiron in Aries. It can be healing to have fun, to be bold, to be messy, to allow your joy to be seen. If you're someone who's been judged for your joy around you're too much, you're too expressive, you're too this, it could be healing to be over the top, to be bold, to be too much. Truly, that can be healing. And yes, there is a spirit of excess alive today. And even with the Jupiter energy earlier this week, sometimes this could be overdoing energy, but you're not here to shrink. You're not here to dim your light. You're not here to be hidden. You're here to talk loud and express big and feel deeply and be too much. That can be healing, especially for the past versions of you who felt like you had to hide these sides of yourself in a box, shrouded in darkness, hidden away. No more. We're shining our light. On Sunday, June 29th, after midnight, Mercury in Leo will oppose Pluto in Aquarius, and this can plunge your mentality, your thoughts, your thinking into the abyss. You can find that you are more subject to rumination, to obsession, to hyperfixation, to paranoia, to assuming the worst, to allow fear of the future take away from the joy of today. There can definitely be some Sunday scary energy alive in the world, as well as destructive and not helpful thoughts. And keep in mind, what we were talking about around the mind earlier, the mind is there to find and fix problems or to ensure our own survival. And with Mercury opposite Pluto, there's a million things we could freak out about and panic about if we so choose to. And it's not so easy around, well, I'm just going to choose to not do that. But with Mercury opposite Pluto, put your mind towards something that is more constructive rather than destructive would be the encouragement here. And with this energy, you can find that you encounter types of people who are quite persuasive or pushy or even competitive with you in some way. With Mercury opposite Pluto, you can even encounter individuals who are pushy, bossy, telling you what to do, telling you who to be in a very intense fashion. It's Pluto. And the moon enters Virgo today, who's answering to Mercury opposite Pluto. So you could also be beating yourself up, being super hard on yourself around you can't even keep your house clean, or you had this work mistake and you're going to mess this up, like being your own biggest op from the inside out. And this was reflected within the vibe check around just the nature of the poetry that you shared, how it was dark, it was intense. It wasn't for everyone. You know, your story is not for everyone. And sometimes your words are not meant to be understood at that particular moment. You know, with the energy of Pluto, sometimes there is something polarizing in what you share or how you say it. And definitely, I think it's important for us to be intentional with our words, especially as we near a Mercury retrograde, important with what we share and how we share it. But it's also knowing that your words are not there to conform to everybody else's or to even be understood by every single person. And sometimes you share something or you have a certain idea or you have a certain opinion that ages well, so to speak, with Pluto and Aquarius, like speaking out about something and then in due time, people will see. Or an energy where you share something with a loved one and you're like, okay, this is something that they're going to have to learn in the future. And maybe they're upset at me sharing this now, but they will see with time. I'm not at all implying that we all are all knowing, right? But sometimes there is an energy around, ooh, I shared that idea and just the world wasn't ready for it yet. Or this person wasn't ready for it yet, because Pluto in Aquarius is like one step in the future. So that's a very common phenomenon around Aquarius placements, is that they have an idea and it's like considered weird at the time that they share it. But then in time, that's like the trend and it's popular. Like it's before our time sort of energy. So with Mercury and Leo opposite Pluto and Aquarius, it's not necessarily basing the value of your ideas based on people's ability to understand them right now. Like if you look back through history, like a lot of individuals who are on the right side of history were individuals who were willing to speak things that were inconvenient or not understood at that time. And like in time, their opinions aged like wine. Right? And so it's just knowing with Mercury opposite Pluto and just knowing with Sunday's astrology, the moon enters Virgo, answering to Mercury opposite Pluto. So you could be very hard on yourself, very obsessed with something, trying to perfect something, trying to fix something right away. It's important to observe where something is no longer constructive or serving you. I got super obsessed with untangling these string lights. If you guys remember my string lights that I used to have in this corner. And I spent hours untangling these string lights. Like we took them down to paint the wall and then I was detangling them to add them to this set. And I spent hours detangling them. Just when I finally got them all untangled, I plugged them in and they did not even light up. Somehow in the untangling, something had gotten severed. I don't know. And I was like, are you kidding? That was so many hours that I lost. But I was like obsessed. I couldn't break away from it. I was like getting petty about it to a certain extent around like needing to prove a point, which can be alive on Sunday. People going to the ends of the earth to prove a point. Again, your job is to share. You don't need to make sure other people understand or react in the way that you need them to, or to go to the ends of the earth to defend your point of view. You know who you are. You know your heart. It's not saying that. It's just saying some people will get it. Some people won't. Sometimes it ages like fine wine. Sometimes your idea is before its time and it'll pop off in a couple years from now. It's not getting too attached to other people's ability to hold or agree at that particular moment. But with the energy of my lights, it was like I was obsessed with untangling it. I was like in a tunnel beyond even coming out of it and recognizing, should I make sure these lights work? Do I even need string lights? Should I order different string lights? It was like so obsessive for what? Truly, I was just like so dialed into perfecting this and detangling it and finding order. And I lost many hours of my life that I will never get back. And that's where it's important to come back to the bigger picture, because sometimes Mercury opposite Pluto could be very tunnel vision, whether that's a project or a task or an argument. Come back to the bigger picture. You could wake up to something unexpected, shocking. Like I said, news can sometimes be quite intense with Mercury opposite Pluto, and we just see that echoed by the Leo moon squaring Uranus. That does not necessarily indicate news. It just could be something unexpected, which again could be a dream. It could be a wake-up call. The trash truck is outside and woke you up, or you just woke up in a cold sweat and you're not sure why, or you get a text that you're like, huh? The moon then enters Virgo at 4:44 a.m. It sextiles Jupiter midday. So again, a task that you could get absorbed with could actually be enjoyable. Follow your energy and you could find yourself like getting lost in a project that feels good, where you feel like you are creating order in something. It's just important to come out of it if it's getting very frustrating and you're spending hours upon hours detangling lights and your knees are starting to hurt and you haven't ate in hours. Like, remember to come out of it. It's nice to be in the zone. But remember, you are a human being who has human needs. And if you allow your intuition to guide you, you can dial into different projects, whether it's around the home or within your art with Mercury and Leo or within your to-do list. Reminder, last day of new Mercury territory. So just a heads up there. The moon will align with Mars at 6:14 p.m. So if someone dares to get in the way of you detangling lights, or maybe you're absorbed in a work project or absorbed in a house project, you might be a little feisty, a little sassy. Moon Mars can make us a little reactive sometimes, especially if we're already overstimulated or we're already consumed by something. You might be like, what? If your partner asks you like, hey, you need help with that? Or hey, I'm going to the store. You need anything? Just because you are so absorbed in something. Or you could just find you're a little bit more frustrated, angry. Again, little things could be bothering you. Pet peeves could be infuriating you. And then the Virgo moon will sextile Cancer sun. So remember to nurture your body. Remember to nurture your home. And my loves, we have made it through Magic Monday, take 2. So this week's Magic Monday mantra of the week to support your journey is, I am present for the process. When we are present in every step of the journey, we invite that emotion that we are truly wanting to get to come along with us, right? We carry it in the backpack. Rather than thinking, I will feel fulfilled when, we invite, hey, fulfillment, you want to come with me as I continue on this journey of feeling more and more fulfilled as a poet? Hey, joy, you want to come with me as I find more and more people that I can express my authentic joy around? We invite that emotion with us because that emotion at that end result is not a guarantee. And so this new moon in Cancer is around, I feel shades of fulfillment currently. I feel shades of joy currently. I feel shades of love currently, no matter how big or small that may be. I'm inviting more of that. I'm calling in more of that. And yes, there's desires, there's milestones, there's accolades that I want to achieve, but I'm not waiting to experience that emotion till that moment. Like, yes, it'll feel so gratifying when I'm reading my poems to thousands or hundreds of people, however many people fit in an auditorium and go to poetry readings. Yes, that'll feel so gratifying. But it also feels so good to feel the sharpening of my craft, to laugh with the other people in my poetry club, or to find that perfect word that closes out this poem, or to feel my confidence as a speaker continue to grow. Like, that's also gratifying. I'm present for the process. I'm present for my becoming. I'm present for my growing. So be present with your process of becoming, because this journey here on planet Earth is an eternal process of becoming. We never fully make it in a sense. We just reach new heights. We never fully make it in a sense. We are continually growing. And this week asks you to be open for that soul growth, which can sometimes be a little scary for the mind and humbling for the ego, but it is truly medicinal for the soul. So I'll see you again, same time, same place, here in the cosmic corner of the internet. Reminder, if you have not got a chance yet to rate and review the podcast, just takes a couple of minutes of your time and it's so, so helpful. And just a heads up, if you're ever driving, trying to fall asleep, working out, something like this, and you want to listen to Magic Monday on the go, this is now available in a podcast format anywhere where you stream podcasts. But I'm sending you all so much love. Until we meet again, stay magical.